Dating is seen as something that is fun, possibly life-changing, nerve-wracking, and scary. It is controlled by a vast amount of variables, and also follows an extremely strong cultural script for the genders. Gender roles in terms of workforce, academia, and social context have largely moved in a progressive direction ever since the mid-20th century. However, gender roles and scripts in terms of dating have remained largely stagnant, with only a few outliers over the course of this time. For example, in a study that focused specifically on the actions contained in the first date script, it concluded that explicit and formal guidelines exist and have remained surprisingly consistent since the 1950s. Ideally, dating should become more egalitarian, but that is not the case. What even is dating, and where did it come from? By definition, it is a publicly expressed practice undertaken by romantically interested partners for the purpose of getting to know one another. That may seem like a no-brainer, but dating as it is now has only been around for about a century in the US. The way people practice it is a relatively new concept. Before dating, the sheltered courtship practice of calling was practiced, and it was closely monitored by the family and community, and took place in the bachelorette's home. It wasn't until the 1920s that dating became a universal custom for young people. Little has changed in terms of gender roles since the creation of dating. So what are the gender roles of dating among heterosexuals? Typically, men are expected to be the ones to ask out women. However, women are expected to give signals to men. When 87 heterosexuals were administered an online survey in 2011, 31 males and 55 females, 93% of the women preferred to be asked out, while again the majority of men, at 83%, preferred to do the asking. Only 6% of women said they preferred to ask out guys, while 16% of men said they preferred women to ask them out. This shows that there is a larger percent of men that prefer women to ask them out than there are women that prefer to ask men out. When the men and women were surveyed on how many times they were asked out in a year, on average the men said once, and for the women, the average was 5 times. The findings suggest that men are more expected to take on first-time risky initiatives than women on average. Men are also expected to make first-time risky relationship and sexual initiatives as a relationship develops, other findings suggest. Another interesting topic is that 77.4% of people in a relationship believe that men should pay the bill on a first date. About 19% of the people felt that the bill should be split in some way. Only 3.7% said men should not have to pay the bill at all. Although the sentiment of the man paying the bill is true for both cis men and women, men are more likely to believe they should pick up the check on a first date. 82.4% of men said they should, compared to 72.5% of women. For non-first dates, 40% of couples report that they split the bill. 59% of women said their significant other pays. When asked the same question, men only responded at 3%. It is fascinating and yet obvious on how much gender plays a role in dating. In another study on actual first dates, men perform most of the date-related actions, deciding date events, planning the date, being courtly in behavior, and initiating sexual contact. Women were more concerned about their appearance. The majority of dating couples were found to use a gendered stereotyped female demand and male withdrawal style as a predominant communication pattern, and its use increased in response to difficult discussions. You might be wondering why these strong gender roles are still the case after the improvement of women's status and power over the last few decades. The continued presence of strong gender stereotypes in dating beliefs, scripts, and behavior that portray or confirm women as passive recipients and men as active power holders requires some explanation. Part of the reason for the tenacity of gender role norms in dating relationships may be because men and women are still not on an equal footing in society. Women are persistently underrepresented in the highest leadership positions, including in public office, in academia, and in business. For example, while women earned 35.5% of MBAs in 2007, they currently represent just 3% of Fortune 500 CEOs, and are only 1.5% of CEOs in the world's 2,000 top-performing companies. Another reason for the persistence of gender stereotypes in dating relationships is that these long-held cultural scripts and stereotypes serve many cognitive and social functions. Relying on cultural scripts and stereotypes may provide couples with a familiar and mutually agreed upon backdrop that helps to reduce the anxiety associated with getting to know a new person. The fact that this agreed upon script relies so heavily on gender may now be mere convention, remnant of explicit sexism that was more prevalent when the institution of dating was founded. Additionally, following cultural standards and norms is one way to demonstrate to your partner that you are socially savvy and attentive to cultural rules, an impression most individuals yearn to make when getting to know a potential romantic partner. Hopefully at some point we can put these gender dating rules to rest and just be ourselves.